Hey everybody, this is Mike Kai, the Leader Lift podcast, as well as our Kingdom Builders and Influencers Network. And it's so good to have one of my closest friends in the entire world, Micah Cravalho from Generosity Water and so much more, joining us today on this Zoom conference call. Micah, welcome to the podcast Zoom conference.
I love it, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Right on. It's good to have you. Where are you at right now? Where are you at right now, Micah?
Well, I'm currently in La Quinta, California. That's where I live, in Palm Springs area. For those of you who know Palm Springs, and now it's really known for Coachella, right? That music festival. So right. That's right up the road. But yeah, got the family here. Been here throughout the whole quarantine and lockdown of this pandemic. So trying to make the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the truth? Making the best out of a bad situation. I want to circle back to that. And anyway, it's good to see you. Good to have you making time. Thank you so much. For the people that aren't aware of what you do, what your role is, could you just give us a quick synopsis of all of that?
Gotcha. Well, I'm the founder and I'm the CEO of Generosity Water. And really all that means is, I have a wonderful team around me that I have to figure out a way to support every single day to kind of drive towards building the vision of creating awareness to the clean water crisis around the world and building a bottled water brand that competes with the best brands in the world. So, got our work cut out for us, but love the opportunity. I love our brand. I love what we stand for. And I couldn't be doing it with a better team. So that's what I do, man.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I don't know if you knew this, but Micah is a local boy from Hawaii, grew up on Maui and making it big time all over California and the rest of the world. So it's really great to have him. Micah joined us back on our very first influencers gathering called the Masterminds. It was back in October or November of 2019, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I love that influencer event. I mean, not just the event, but the network and everything that you're building, man. It's really special for sure.
Thank you, Micah. It was great having you. So, Micah, talk to us about what I said. Let's circle back to. We circle back about how everything has changed so quickly since we last talked to one another and saw one another. Tell me, as a businessman who is running a large company and still trying to take new ground all the time, what is the greatest things that you've noticed in terms of this crisis? Like, this is the best opportunities I saw, or these are the biggest mistakes that I've seen happen. Talk to us about what you've seen during this last 12 weeks.
Well, I think if anything, the pandemic leveled the playing field. So everything that I've been communicating to our team is that I know for our brand, one thing that we always have to work for is attention, just because we're a startup, so we don't have all those dollars that Coca-Cola and Pepsi has to be able to kind of make their way and kind of buy their own real estate within shelves all over the US and the world. And so one thing that we're constantly having to do is, get our distributors' attention to say, hey, look at us. Hey, we can market. Hey, we're going to do good things too. Hey, this is our brand, so on and so forth. And so one thing that we've been working really hard at is ultimately kind of communicating how much we care for our distributors more than what they can do for us. And so I know our team has been putting together, just little care packages for some of our distributor people that are in the field, that are out there hustling and kind of quote unquote going out in harm's way. And so we gave them some branded generosity masks and some hand sanitizer and whatnot, just to make sure that the distributor knows that we care about the partnership and we're willing to do whatever it takes to kind of build a sustainable partnership. And because of that, the feedback has been tremendous. They've kind of told us, they're like, hey, nobody's reached out to us this way, not the bigger brands, not anyone. And so this is well received by our team, and it's giving you more and more attention within our whole distributor network. So I've been trying to kind of communicate to our team is whenever we're limited by local government, limited by, other businesses, so on and so forth. I think the beauty about limitation is that it always breeds innovation, right? And so that's one thing that we're trying to do right now is spend time trying to figure out ways to kind of find the humanity behind the business as opposed to it just being a business to business transaction, and the more you get into digging deeper into what these guys are feeling and what they're going through and the massive layoffs for some of the bigger companies and whatnot. We're a startup, so we've been able to be pretty nimble and pretty flexible throughout these times, but for some of these big companies who are laying off a ton of people, when you sit there and you talk to them and you understand and you just listen, sometimes that can go way longer than the best pitch or the best presentation of why they need to move your product more. So we found that it's kind of communicates our heart and our mission of who we are. And anytime you can kind of leave your mission out and put that out on the table for everybody to see, I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. So the more that you can put that out in front of people, our brand's called Generosity Water. So if we're not generous, then we're missing the point, right?
Right.
So
stingy water. You don't want to be called stingy water.
Yeah, exactly. So because of that, we try to do things as much as possible within our relationships within the business world to show that we care about them and we want to be generous to the needs that they have.
I like it because you said it leveled the playing field, and then what I'm hearing from you is customer service. Is you are taking the road less traveled, I would say, by the bigger corporations, and you are taking it to the people, the distributors, in a more personal manner. Being able to pivot your company's focus from product development, R&D, supply chain, to all of a sudden the human level. How good is that right now? That's amazing. How important is the human level right now? The human touch, personal
more
touch.
Than ever. Think about it. Like everybody right now through this whole pandemic, there's one thing that the world can do is they can relate to each other, right? Everybody's in homes. Everybody's doing limited travel. Everybody's having to, fight to find toilet paper, and like all the crazy things that human beings are doing right now to quote unquote survive, right? And so because of that, I think it brings this level of humanity that ultimately can get lost sometimes in the nature of competitive business, right? And so one thing that I've tried to keep our team focused on is like, number one, we got to figure out a way to survive through this pandemic. I think that's first and foremost. I think there's a lot of companies. I think I read a statistic. It was saying that 42% of small businesses in the US that existed going into 2020 are not going to exist post the pandemic.
Wow.
That's a massive number. So I think the first thing for a lot of these small business owners, it's like, oh yeah, I'm dropping so much in revenue, or some of these big companies, we've lost so much in revenue. It's like no matter what your projections were, no matter where your stock price was at, no matter where your small business is at, you just got to figure out how to survive and then be able to come out of the pandemic with a new vision, a new refreshed motivation, a new gratefulness for going out and having face-to-face meetings. You know what I mean? Try to look at this pandemic as something that we can learn from and make us stronger, as opposed to it just weighing on you heavily every single day. Because I know if you're like me, like not being able to leave the house like makes you drive yourself crazy. You know what I mean? You can only do so much push-ups in your house. You can only like walk around and pace so much without the kids coming through the door and your wife asking you for something every couple minutes. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so much stuff going on, and you're trying to work and you're trying to handle everything because it's all put in one. I think it's something that you just got to embrace because it's never going to happen again, or it may not happen again in this lifetime. Yeah,
maybe not like this, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So Micah, what is the best thing that you realized in your leadership during this crisis through your company that probably the thing that I think that weighs on a lot of people when it comes to crisis in the company, it is not only do we have enough revenue, not only are we going to be able to pay the rent, we're going to get a PPP loan, how are we going to get relief? Can we take our loans to interest only with our buildings or X amount of stuff? But what about on your staff level? Tell us the thing that you have found yourself going from being able to see staff face to face to now all of a sudden 100% Zoom. What are the things that you've noticed out of that change and that adjustment?
I mean, I think you have to have a little bit more grace, you know, for some of the little details that maybe you have established within an office environment, you know. So first and foremost, you know, try to really think of your employees and what they're having to deal with. And, you know, you as an owner might feel pressure for cash flow or revenue, so on and so forth, but they're thinking their livelihood, you know what I mean? So that's something that I want to be empathetic about and ultimately have some grace for. But at the same time, you know, as far as us with Zoom, because a lot of our team members are mobile anyway, what we've found that it's our meetings. I don't want to say they're casual, but our meetings are a little bit more enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's not. It's. There's something about being on camera with the couch in the background or outdoor like this in the background that kind of removes the tension of any type of corporate culture that might try to seep in. You know what I mean? And I think so much a part of getting the most out of your team is ultimately figuring out what works for them. And most of that is comfortability. So the more you get them comfortable in establishing those tasks of what they're supposed to get done, it's not removing the fact that they have to deliver on the standards that you're establishing. But when you have grace, when you really kind of, you know, invest in them thriving and them being comfortable and empowering them, I personally think that's the new generation of what's going to happen. Twitter has already come out and said, we're not going to go to an office model coming out of the pandemic. Like, we're not going to go back to our, like we're going to renegotiate our leases and try to get out of them. Like, this is a new model of how to do business, you know? So I'm encouraging my team to embrace it. You know, we can save maybe money on expense accounts, less travel to go talk to buyers, so on and so forth. So a lot of it is just embracing the new culture of potentially how business is going to be done.
Radically different. You know, I was saying just today that if someone got into a car accident and survived this time, but went into a coma in mid-March and woke up today on June 4th, they would be tripping on what's going on in the world today. I mean, absolutely. Incredible. And when you look at all of the things that have happened from, you know, we went from it's coming, then it's here. And now everybody stay in your house and masks and distance and, you know, and Costco and Home Depot and toilet paper. Are we reopening church and all of that kind of stuff? My gosh, I feel like we've had 2 years rolled into just 2.5 months.
Oh, think about it. I mean, this is something I was just having a conversation with my father-in-law, who's a pastor, as well. And if you think about everything that's happened since the beginning of the year, all the way to June, from the pandemic, all the way to basically what's happening with our economy and the losses of income, unemployment rate, all of those things that are into a slight recession, and then now the current temperament of what's happening in our country with the racial injustice that's going on, right? Yeah. Like all of that combined, think about it. We've had, if you look through history, in the 60s, that in and of itself was, you know, a big movement on racial injustice. And then on top of that, in the 80s, there was that huge recession, right? And then on top of that, like, it's an election year. It's like there's so many things that we're having to handle as human beings, all crunched into a 6-month period of time. Like at some point, like I said, like that's the reason why I am appealing to people's humanity at like right now. Like, hey, how are you feeling? like, hey, like how, like what, like, is there anything you want to talk about? Like, we're all frustrated. So tell me what specifically, making you feel a little bit depressed or a little bit frustrated or something, you know what I mean? Like when you open up those conversations, I believe that people start believing like, okay, hey, like my founder of my company gets it. My senior pastor gets it. Like he understands that I'm going through this and he's willing to help, and anytime the church can do that, anytime that our company can be an extension to show how much we care, how generous we can be, I think that's what get people to respond. You know what I mean? And if you're able to truly recognize where we're at right now as a country, and you can really start having grace for everybody, grace for employees, grace for some of the policymakers, grace for your local church pastors that are just figuring out if they're going to meet in their building or not. You know what I mean? Like everything that everybody is having to deal with, like you should have more grace than ever before, which ultimately in turn should give you the best understanding of who Jesus is more than ever in this moment.
Wow. So true. So true. Yeah. Appealing to people on a personal level, really caring about humanity at this time when it seems like really the hearts of men are waxing cold, as Jesus would say in the last days. I was thinking about this, Micah. Do you think that what do you think the new normal looks like in business?
The new normal in business, I think companies are going to take a huge pivot. I think especially large companies, like if you work for a large organization, I think things are just going to change quite a bit. The whole, like I said, first and foremost, I think the tradition of, hey, meeting for coffee, meeting for lunch, flying to another state to go do business, to do a meeting. I think those things that have become routine, I think those are probably going to get eliminated. Companies are like, hey, we can save money on the travel to spend $2, $5, $6, $7, $8 on a trip, or we can do a Zoom meeting. What do you think they're going to choose? You know what I'm saying?
If Zoom works, we're going to Zoom.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think people are going to be asking for that a lot. I think that corporations, companies, are going to have to work harder at protecting their culture and establishing their culture, because I don't believe people are going to be meeting on a regular basis in offices all the time. And so because of that, a lot of people have been working towards office culture for a lot of years and trying to build open workspaces and, open lines of communication and all those things. And I think some of those things potentially could be eliminated. So I think there has to be an adjustment on communication. I think there's gonna be a lot of phone calls. I think there's gonna be a lot of Zooms. When people do meet in person, I think it's going to be more like retreat gathering than it is like actually like sitting in a conference room forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was listening to one guy who said, what would normally take 3, 5, 7 years to complete a vision, and then you come up with new vision. Every year you tweak the vision, you bring in a speaker who's going to meet with you at a staff retreat. You're going to go somewhere different, and everybody's going to get together, and then we're going to play games. We're going to do trust falls. I've never done a trust fall.
I think just like that.
That's not going to happen.
It's just I don't see large organizations for them more when that they can operate the same way that they have been operating within this pandemic. Like even for churches, like I think there's churches right now that in some cases giving has gone up because they have had a really efficient reach on social and YouTube and online, and the pivot to how they do services online. They're not in a rush to get back to their building because that's just a weighted expense that they're giving. People are more engaged than ever. Their community groups through Zoom are hustling. You know what I mean? So because of all of that, I just think people are going to rethink and just going into a default of, hey, let's just get a bunch of people together just to get people together. You know, everything's gonna be more intentional. I think everything's gonna be a little bit more intimate more than ever. And I think those are all good things.
I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was pre-COVID. I don't think church, or definitely not business, is going to go back to pre-COVID. I would hope it does. Not likely. If it does, it's going to be a picture of it more like 6 months to a year from now. But I don't think I want to. I'm not being a pessimist. I'm an optimist. But listening to enough forecasters and just watching how slow this roll is, you know what I've seen on another note, I've seen kind of like the decentralization of business and of church. You got decentralized. It's almost like, I don't know where people are with their faith with God who are watching this. Hopefully you have a faith in God, and we really want to lead you into that. But I would say it's like a Tower of Babel experience. Like, this is like the Tower of Babel. It's come down, and now everybody is scattered. And once we were all saying the same language, it's even culture, right? We were saying the same things in church, in our offices, in our church culture, and all of a sudden, boom, we're scattered. But it's not like we're all blind and scattered. We're still connected, and we're still speaking the language, but it's just not the same. The other part I thought about this was, Micah, was the storefront with the looting, the potential for looting, and the precedent with looting all over again. It's a precedent. It's a different kind of precedent. It means like there's this fearless factor of people that's go in, and it's not robbery. It's a whole nother level. It's mob looting, and we can loot. And not signaling out anybody, but everybody's watching. We're watching habits. We're watching how things form. Absolutely. I worry about storefronts. I worry about, is the storefront still a viable, or is it more a protected situation within a mall where you can't get in? Remember the decentralization of the big malls, all those big ones. And now they became malls. I mean, you have to be a really good mall to hold on to stuff. So I'm just concerned that the storefront is going to be different. Concerned that almost 90%, 70% of commerce will now be online ordering, and then we're losing the human touch and the human factor part of the exchange.
Wow. And that's something that's a concern to me, that people are just going to get a little bit too dependent on technology. I'm a guy who I want to touch, I want to feel, I want to be there. Like I want I get energized by being around people. You know, I just think that the intimacy should change, but it doesn't mean there should be an absence of relationships and live relationships and getting together. But like, from a business example, to kind of reiterate what you're saying is, look at what's happened to the car industry, right? The car industry went from like all these people who own these big lots, right? And the whole model was like, okay, put as many cars on the lot as possible. Show everybody how many cars you have, and that's going to draw people in, and then everybody's going to want to come in, and then they're going to want to buy a car, right? And now technology has shifted everything to like TrueCar and all of these different type of car delivery companies that ultimately you can buy a used car, or you can buy a car and it gets delivered actually to your house. So that whole car buying heavy sales from the sales rep is kind of going away. Now think about what's happening. Look at the model that Tesla has developed.
Right. Tesla, I was going to bring that up.
Malls with like one showcase with like 2-3 cars in there, right? That's it's like showing the technology, and that's it. It's like a small little building. Like how much more economical is that operation than a huge car lot with a ton of sales staff? And I'm not trying to provoke fear here that like, oh, we're going to lose out on jobs. It's just that if you are an influencer, if you're listening to this, which means that you're a leader, you're entrepreneurial, you're ultimately wanting to get better, that's the reason why you would come on a podcast like this, right? Like Craig Rochelle always talks about becoming an anticipatory leader. Do you know what I mean? And being that person that anticipates what's going to be. And the only way you can do that is if you're bold about some of your thought process and your opinions, right? So that you have confidence, kind of saying, "Hey, I think this is going to happen, and I've read enough, and I've studied enough, I've asked enough questions, I've had enough conversations that this is what I think is going to happen. And I'm going to make a decision that way." right? And to
Right.
me, that's how as leaders, we got to develop ourselves for this next season, because we're going to have to be more anticipatory than ever
Mm-hmm.
in the way that business is moving, because technology is moving so quickly. So you have to kind of get with the times. Don't like, if you are right now trying to strike a deal or come up with a new model of how to get car salesmen to sell more cars, then you've probably missed your window. Does that make sense? Because there's not as much car salesmen and car lots anymore. There's a different way and a different model to do it, right? So in the same way, I think that's something that we can be cognitive. You as a church leader, like being cognitive, having conversations of where things are going, and it's going to start becoming very, very clear to you that, like, hey, that's an old way of doing things, or that's a slow model. And there's certain things within your church you're going to be able to eliminate, because hey, that's way behind. And if we continue to put resources to that, like, we're inhibiting what's going to actually happen with some of these things that are building a ton of momentum of where the future is going. It's just, to me, there's so much changing right now. And that's driven by the influence of policymakers right now, and the influence of these really, really big technology driven companies. The Googles, the Amazons, the Walmarts of the world, like, these guys are moving business along so quickly. They're acquiring so many people so fast. It's crazy how fast it's moving.
Wow, that's amazing. Michael, what do you think right now is the hottest type of business that's going on right now?
The hottest type of business?
Like, the maybe the top 5 that you can think of, or maybe top 3. That, man, these businesses are in high demand right now. Or services.
Anything to do any communication. So any type, like Zoom's taking off, Zoom, like that type of technology communication. I think that's big. I think anything that has to do with direct to consumer is moving very, very quickly, whether you're logistics and delivery, all the way to packaging, to the actual CPG itself, the consumer product. So I feel like I'm in a good market to be in, you know what I mean? Because I have a product that I can sell directly to somebody's home. So I think that's what's hot right now, is anything that is going directly to the consumer. Everything in between is slowly going to fade away. All the middlemen, all the different things, it's going to be whatever's going straight to the home is what's going to be the future.
It's interesting. My friend from our church, his name is Gus Mello. He has a CrossFit company called Hele Fitness. Shout out to Gus and Juliana. Should be having a baby any moment now. And it's called Hele Fitness. And the word Hele means her, pretty much like, let's get moving in Hawaiian. And CrossFit company, bro, from the time that COVID hit and before we went into isolation, within 2 weeks, sold out all of their product, gone, taking pre-orders. And the challenge is the supply to keep up. They're doing great, exponentially great. It's incredible. I've seen businesses doing really, really well during this time. Got another guy that went to Bob Harrison's event, learned of dry fog technology connected with a guy there. And now his company's called Unified Hawaii. They've been able to pivot their other business, which is mainly solar, and diversify and be able to grab this technology. And they're doing the prison system now here in Honolulu, on Oahu. They're going to do it for the whole state, and they're taking off like crazy. It's been incredible. For us as a church, the business side of our church, we pivoted so quickly. We went from, we flipped the switch. We went from several thousand in buildings to maybe not even 1,000 online. And all of a sudden, nobody in buildings, and like crazy amounts online that we never expected that this would ever happen. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely.
I feel the door of opportunity is slowly closing, that window slowly closing, but it's going to open up again, or it's going to be different.
Well, in business, there's one thing that I remember in my early days. I remember I used to ask God, like, I just want to own a company. I want to start a company. I want the right opportunity to go after, and all of that. And it seemed like opportunity was scarce. But one thing that I've learned ever since actually starting a company and going from there, the more you read, the more you educate yourself, the more relationships you build, like you're never going to lack for a pie. You know what I mean? And the second that everybody grabs a piece, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. You know,
wow.
It's not the case at all. I think opportunity is always going to be there. Commerce is always going to be there. There's always a way to make something more efficient. There's always a way to do something different, or to do a different version of it, or a different culture on it, or a different infrastructure on it. So I believe there's always going to be opportunities. And if you are driving your team to make those decisions, think that way, that, hey, there's a plethora of opportunity. You know, what are we looking for to create more opportunity? I think that's a great culture item to establish for your team, so that in a time like this, people aren't feeling fearful and scared and hey, this is going to run out or whatnot. Like there's faith and there's hope for the future, because there's always going to be opportunity there.
Very, 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 very important. I think that I'm looking for opportunity for the church, for our business side of things. I'm looking for the opportunity where God gives us, where another building might open up, and you capitalize on those opportunities, not being opportunistic, but looking for those, and God brings it to you. And so I'm looking for anything from Kahala, Aina Haina, all the way to maybe Manoa Valley. Praying. One of these guys on my team said to me, "Oh yeah, Pastor, I'm looking at that building." I was looking at that building. I said, "Yeah, you're looking at that building?" He goes, "Yeah, I've been praying for it." I said, "Did you ever call up the realtor and ask him how much?" "No." I said, "Well, that's not good enough. If you want, you can't just pray. You got to pray and do, and go find out a little bit more about what this thing can look like."
And you establishing that culture where you're training them how to think on deals. I mean, you start training enough of your team members in development or whatever, where they're looking for specific deals, or they're looking for cost saving opportunities, or looking for those things. After a while, you're going to start seeing that every single part of your departments are growing and efficient, and you're getting bigger and better deals because your team's trained on what exactly to look for. That's a great culture, especially within a church. So many people think that your church is just, hey, like we have a church on Sunday morning, it's a specific program. But the churches that I know that are making the biggest impact are those that are out here in the city. They're buying up buildings, they're buying up land, they're making investment properties. Like they're creating resources in different areas for them to serve the community. And that's what you guys are doing. That's what's special about Inspired Church.
Thank you. I'm wondering if this will help anybody else, Micah. We're buying that land in Kapolei. We bought it already, and now we're going to build a building. But because of COVID, we're slowing it down just a little bit, believing for better pricing for construction. Just the smartest thing to do. But I also know that it's got to have 4 or 5 different streams of income. Not just a church and not just your typical preschool. So We're looking at sound studios. So the school's trying to take my idea. Their guy pitched it back to me. They're a good guy. He said, "Oh yeah, sound studio, gym, preschool." I'm like, a place for the arts. I said, "Who talked to you from my staff and gave you my whole business plan?" Because that's exactly what I'm building 2 blocks from you.
Wow.
That was funny. He goes, I don't know how he got the idea. I think I know, but you know what? They designed in their mind to a T, but we're building it faster. We're going to build it in November.
Ultimately, if you're not thinking that way regarding real estate, I think you're just going to end up with a really fat mortgage that you're responsible for, and people aren't thinking that way. You know what I mean? Like there's no point in just burdening this huge mortgage to have a bunch of empty space sitting somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you got to utilize it.
Yeah. I'm even looking at this, our current building that we lease in Waikele. We're going to start leasing out to a jiu-jitsu school on weeknights. We're going to start doing a dance studio here and have a dance studio. While we wait for the right measures in order to have a preschool, and we'll do the preschool. I just think that I can't let this big shell of a beautiful building just hold only 1/3 of its capacity on Sunday. And that's about it, you know, and
exactly
office
right.
workers in this beautiful office work environment. How incredible is this? You've seen it. And if you're watching this and you want to lease space, let me know, you know, square footage, $10 a square foot. Just kidding.
No, but to me, that's how every person on this influencer network should be thinking. Whatever you can figure out a way to monetize, you know, it's easier than ever, you know, especially if you have real estate. If you have real estate between Airbnb and some of these leasing platforms, like you have no reason not to figure out a way to monetize every part of your building.
Right. I love talking to you, because every time I talk to you, we always the juices start flowing, the creativity starts to happen. And that's what I love about you. I want to encourage everybody who's watching this Zoom call, this podcast, to make sure you have people like that in your life that can stimulate the conversation, that can get you thinking, and also finding yourself a mentor who's gone before you and is willing to pour in what they know, be able to share that with you. Because I know Micah wouldn't be where he is today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for people that we said, hey, can I get some time? And they give you the time and they share what they know in order to help you to get to the next level. Micah, it's been great being with you, man.
You as well, brother. Love you so much. And thank you so much.
I love you too, man. Is there anything else you want to impart to us before we send these guys back off to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a business leader, or just as an influencer in general, I think it's very important to sense the tone of what's happening in our country right now. And so whatever you need to do to have more conversations, you know, call up friends, call up people in church, whatever it might be, just have conversations around what's happening right now, and educate yourself and kind of be prepared to love people and be more gracious than ever. And I think that's the heart of Jesus. And that's something that we want to encourage people to be, regardless of if they own a business or what they're doing, you know what I mean? And so that's something that I think is really on my heart as of late, as is on yours. But I think God's about to do something in our country. And so we got to be prepared for it.
I agree. Yep. Well, everybody, you've been listening to the Leader Lift podcast with the Kingdom Builders and the Influencers Network, and Micah Cravalho, Generosity Water, has been so gracious. Micah, we look forward to having you back in Hawaii, if not on the podcast in the future. Say hi to Bethany and to the kids, and thank you so much for your time.
All right, buddy. Love you so much.
All right, bro. Love you too.
All right.